Study 3. One of the most interesting case studies in the Bailey-Draeger doctrine arose in response to the call for proposals that led to this panel discussion. In her CFP, which was posted on the Women's Studies listserv, WMSTL, Joelle Ruby Ryan gave an accurate summary of the man who would be queen controversy. It's quoted in full in the printed paper, and for reasons of time, I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but it's there for anyone who wishes to read it. In her CFP, Ryan raised a number of issues as potential topics for discussion, including the accusations of research misconduct, the propagation of master narratives harmful to trans women, and Bailey's advocacy of a parental right to test for a supposed gay gene in utero for the purpose of selective abortion, described by many, including Ryan, as eugenics. Draeger immediately attacked Ryan's CFP, claiming that it was laden with factual errors, this is a quote, and misrepresentations about the history of the Bailey controversy and Draeger's work, end quote. Of particular interest to our discussion is that Draeger frames Ryan's CFP, though not in so many words as yet, as a threat to Bailey-Draeger academic freedom. Quote, in this work, I trace what happened to Bailey, a sex researcher who said some politically unpopular things. What happened to Bailey was shocking and important enough that my findings were covered in the New York Times a few weeks ago. I encourage scholars in women's studies to read my paper because I think they're in danger of similar things happening to them, since they often say politically unpopular things, end quote. It is worth noting that Draeger did not provide any examples of the alleged factual errors or misrepresentations. Indeed, on the following day, in an exchange on the same listserv with Emi Koyama, Draeger still does not supply any specifics, though she does add an adjective. The alleged misrepresentations are now profound, though they remain unspecified. Nor do Draeger's accusations increase in specificity on the following day, though they do once again increase in intensity. Quote, I appreciate your advising Joelle Ruby Ryan that she was putting herself at risk as a scholar, working within a controversial field, trans issues, by tolerating tactics that breed fear and stifle academic freedom. I would add that one is not acting like a scholar when one repeatedly misrepresents facts and the work of other scholars, as Ms. Ryan did in her CFP, end quote. A month later, little has changed. The unspecified alleged misrepresentations in Ryan's CFP have now been upgraded to defamation. Draeger now asks, should I sit around and let someone say false, harmful things about me and my work just because I'm not as oppressed as them? Would you? After the unspecified accusations against Ryan have hung in the air on WMSTL for over a month, Koyama suggests that Draeger might wish to provide something in the way of actual substantiation of her repeated claims of misrepresentations, profound misrepresentations, and defamation. No problem, Draeger responds. While it apparently had been a problem for over a month prior to Draeger's email of 23rd October 2007 is, of course, beyond the scope of this work. Ultimately, it turns out that Draeger's accusations refer to Ryan's characterization of Draeger's 62-page defense of Bailey as a lengthy apologia, Ryan's reference to Bailey's advocacy of what could reasonably be called eugenics, and what is euphemistically called reparative therapy, Ryan's statement that Bailey was accused of having sex with a research subject, and Ryan's reference to master narratives harmful to trans people. The first of these profound, libelous misrepresentations is a statement of opinion, a characterization of Draeger's scholarly history with which Draeger apparently does not agree. The eugenics comment is a matter of interpretation. Reasonable people can differ on whether it constitutes eugenics to put the power to eliminate gay people from the gene pool in the hands of individual prospective parents. Currently I've got 2 minutes, so I'm going to try to zip through the rest of this here. Luckily, I haven't got much. Just to summarize, and again, the full version's in print here for anyone who wants it. The accusations the supposedly libelous misrepresentations boil down to 2 statements of opinion and several demonstrably true facts. Draeger also threatened with litigation. Now that is in itself a very instructive thing. Wait a second, I'm skipping a page now. I was skipping more than that, actually. Let's see. At this point, it is worth reiterating that we're dealing with a quintessentially scholarly activity, a call for submissions for an academic panel discussion. From Draeger's response to Ryan's CFP, however, it's clear that this scholarly activity, unlike the Men Who Would Be Queen or Draeger's apologia, is well outside of the protection of Bailey-Draeger academic freedom. Indeed, not only is it not protected by the Bailey-Draeger doctrine, It is in itself a violation of it. From Drager's response, it appears there are few limits, if any, to the means to which a beneficiary of Drager-Bailey academic freedom may resort. Surprisingly, even threats of potentially devastating defamation litigation, the ultimate in state-supplied coercive mechanisms, may be employed in order to bring miscreants to heel. Even short of employing the coercive measures of the state, it is permissible to defend one's Bailey-Drager academic freedom by issuing vague, unspecified accusations and allowing them to hang in the air for extended periods in order to undermine the reputation and credibility of a violator of Bailey-Drager academic freedom. If, for example, someone takes The Men Who Would Be Queen and its production seriously enough to research its making and publicly critique its content, the validity of their critique is of no consequence. The logic is akin to that of Justice I should actually back up a second. Here again, we see the Bailey-Drager doctrine's interesting treatment of consequences. The consequences of a violation of Bailey-Drager academic freedom for its beneficiaries are all important, more important than the substance of the protected activity or the nature of the violation. The consequences that the exercise of Bailey-Drager academic freedom might bring for others, on the other hand, are irrelevancies, trivial matters not worthy of serious time or attention. If somebody takes The Men Who Would Be Queen and its production seriously enough to research its making and publicly critique its content, the validity of the critique is of no consequence. The only matter of importance is the damage such attention might cause to Bailey's reputation. The logic is akin to that of Justice Scalia's order enjoining further vote counting in Florida, on the grounds that if the count revealed that Bush had lost, this would cause irreparable harm to his legitimacy as president. From these case studies, it's clear, if, on the other hand, Drager decides to damage a graduate student's career with vague, unspecified, and ultimately false accusations in order to forestall an academic discussion that is violative of Bailey-Drager academic freedom, the consequences for the graduate student are no concern of ours. She was asking for it. From these case studies, it's clear that Bailey-Drager academic freedom is fundamentally status-based. However, it is clear that the relevant status is not a position within the academic establishment per se. While the two known beneficiaries of Bailey-Drager academic freedom both hold faculty positions at a leading university, Lynn Conway and Deidre McCloskey, both respected academics at other institutions, clearly do not merit the protection of the Bailey-Drager doctrine. What, then, is the key status attribute that distinguishes those who benefit from the virtually absolute right of Bailey-Drager academic freedom from those who are subject to the corresponding duty to applaud or remain silent? It would be cynical to suggest that the only beneficiaries of the Bailey-Drager academic freedom doctrine are Bailey and Drager, and no evidence suggests that the doctrine would never apply to anyone other than themselves. Thus, the necessary status attribute must be something more than merely belonging to the academic establishment. Judging from the case studies above, it would appear that the clear criterion is not membership in the academic hierarchy, but one's attitude toward hierarchy itself. That is, this is the one clear distinguishing characteristic between the conduct of Bailey and Drager and that of Conway et al. Bailey and Drager, above all, defend the hierarchical position of experts, their right to define and categorize the lower orders, without regard to the lived experiences or insights that the latter might provide. By demanding to be heard on the question of who and what are trans women, and even daring to contradict a J. Michael Bailey, Conway et al. Challenged one of the most entrenched hierarchies in our society, the right of Toshstein-Bateman's substantial people to define the discourse on any given subject. It is not the butterfly's place to lecture the entomologist. It may feel pain whilst being pinned to a corkboard, but it best keep that to itself.